Now, Gerald Celente is going to be joining us in the final segment tonight with the latest developments with MF Global, now into the multi-billions of account holders who've had their money taken. And there's been a shocking new development even in this crazy case. They're now sending them new account statements and saying, oh, we've altered it and taken your money. Incredible. He's going to show us that coming up, joining us from New York. But look at this article. Weeding out corporate psychopaths. And this is something I've researched. You have a certain number of psychopaths in the population, and they tend to kind of be brood mothers over groups of sociopaths, control freaks, sadists, and others who serve them. There's different varieties under them. And they always build, kind of like spiders building webs, the same type of societies. And they're very scientific about it now. And we see them devaluing currency, selling governments derivatives, bankrupting them, Bank of America and others taking houses they don't own knowingly. And then the federal and state courts rule, you can do it, and you can lie in the mirror's filings. I mean, it's crazy. But Hitler, Stalin, Mao, Nero, the list goes on and on. This is the norm when good people don't recognize it. But this guy has really researched, and I don't want to go over his lengthy bio. He's lived in Australia, Asia, all over the world. He is Dr. Clive Boddy, research academic. And, of course, he's been at Middlesex University and Lincoln Universities and just involved in a lot of deep research into toxic leadership, corporate psychopaths, and more, and how that influences organizational outcomes. And just amazing insight. So I'm going to try to give him the floor and break down his peer-reviewed paper titled The Corporate Psychopaths Theory of the Global Financial Crisis. Details of how highly placed psychopaths in the banking sector may have nearly brought down the world economic system through their inherent inability to care about the consequences of their actions. Actually, a lot of them have a thrill. Look at the beautiful colors of blood, basically. And from my research in their own documents, it's actually a plan, order out of chaos. They wreck it, then pose as saviors, and use the corporate whore media to never point that out. But again, a professor, Dr. Clive Boddy, joins us. Sir, thank you for coming on with us. Where are you exactly joining us from Skype tonight?
Well, at the moment, I'm based in Cambridge in the UK, so I'm at home.
Well, it's awesome to have you here with us. Okay, you've got the floor. You got 10 minutes to explain to people your paper, the theory. Hopefully it's online so people can read it, because it doesn't sound like a theory to me. The sun comes up in the morning, and you know, that's basically what your basic thesis says to me.
Well, so far it's just a theory. I've researched the effects of corporate psychopaths on various aspects of managerial behavior, and everything points in the same direction, more or less. So I've looked at conflict and bullying, corporate social responsibility, job satisfaction, workload, withdrawal from the organization, organizational constraints and productivity, and organizational commitment to employees. And corporate psychopaths have a statistically significant and quite major effect in all those areas, some more than others. And for example, in my research, I estimate that about a quarter of all bullying is accounted for by the presence of corporate psychopaths, who only represent, as you've just said, 1% of the population. So the theory is, if you move on from the research that we have done, that there are a number of theories about what they might also be doing that is relevant to today's economic environment. There's three related theories in this respect. There's a theory that they are attracted to certain organizations more than others because they want the power and money and prestige that are only to be found in those organizations. And obviously, the financial services sector is one of those organizations where relatively large financial rewards can be gained.
Police, military, anything that has university heads carrying out their pedophile operations, they want that power because it also gives them protection, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, those are different types of psychopaths I think you're talking about. My interest is primarily in those who are after money and power rather than control of other people and violence, which might be attracted to different kinds of organizations.
Sure, but the power to tax, the power to devalue currency, that's one of the most ultimate forms of violence. But you're the expert in this area, but please continue.
Yeah, at the same time as that, there's the theory that as organizations have become less and less bureaucratic, less hierarchical, much more influenced by constant change and turnover of personnel, the opportunities for psychopaths to enter those organizations and, more importantly, to remain unnoticed, because people don't really get to know each other over long periods of time anymore in the workplace, gives them the opportunity to enter, not become noticed, and slowly to move up the corporate hierarchy until they attain the positions of power and influence that they're after. And then, after that, they work to their own advantage, not to the advantage of the company that employs them. And that's the key difference, I think, between them and normal employees or the rest of us.
So you're saying they'll gut the company in a year just so they get a $50 million bonus, even though it destroys even the long-term profitability?
Well, it would if they had the chance, yeah. I think that's pretty certain.
Please continue, then.
Yeah. And so another thing that people sort of struggle with is, because they're 1% of the population, people think they can't have much influence. But if you imagine a corporate hierarchical structure, the more up the hierarchy they go, and there is weak evidence to show that they're more to be found at the top of organizations than at the bottom. So the higher up they go, the more influence they have to those around them. And they have a toxic influence by example. So people follow their ethics, they follow their style, and they affect the corporate culture of the whole organization in an ethically downwards direction, leading to consequences that people do things when they are around a psychopath that they wouldn't normally do. For example, engaging in bullying behavior, engaging in ethically questionable financial misstatements or misrepresentations, and not drawing a line or whistleblowing when they could have the opportunity to do so.
Wow. Now, where can we read your paper? Is it publicly out there on the web?
No, it was published in the Journal of Business Ethics, which is a leading business and ethics journal. And it's also been published in a book that came out of mine called Corporate Psychopaths, Organizational Destroyers. And I think that's available through most website bookshops.
Oh, good. I want to read that, because from my research, just in the field, studying different types of psychopaths, the really high IQ ones, they know how to recruit different types of people. The mercenary class, sociopaths, other psychopaths, though sometimes they're intimidated by those and worried. And, it's kind of like Stalin emptying out all the prisons with the murderers and rapists and making them the heads of his secret police regionally because he knew they'd get the job done. I mean, I think throughout history, we really see manifestations of this over and over again.
Well, yeah, as you say, I think there are certain characters in history who certainly seem to have pronounced psychopathic tendencies. And, I mean, the examples we've given of people who have killed or millions of civilians without blinking an eyelid or losing a night's sleep over it. We've been slow to realize, or academia and psychologists have been slow to realize, that not all psychopaths are those violent criminal psychopaths. And some prefer the much more easy life of a corporate executive, where they can, even if they're found out in terms of their fraudulent or embezzling or misrepresentation activities, the punishments they get are relatively light and easy compared to their more criminal brethren.
Is the global corporate structure, from your research, I mean, are they aware of this? I mean, hopefully your book, or because from my research, it's like there's mega psychopath families that actually interbreed and have those ruthless tendencies. That may not be all pure psychopaths, but have those tendencies, and that they know they're actually trying to recruit the ruthless person. But I think what you're getting at, I haven't read your book yet, I read the articles about it, is that they're even destabilizing the power structures own systems and combines and companies, because they're not company men. So in a way, it's almost like sabotaging the globalist-owned system. Well,
yeah, I mean, in many ways, they are the unacceptable face of capitalism. they go too far in the pursuit of their own self-interest, to the extent of destroying the very environment that's given them the opportunity in the first place. So I think it's in everybody's interest, from the top right to the bottom, from the bottom right to the top, I should say, to identify and monitor these people to make sure the damage they do isn't on too wide a scale to put right.
Dr. Clive Boddy is our guest. What got you interested in this? I mean, how long have you been researching this? And if you were talking to a group of academics and had, 3-4 minutes to kind of break down the core research on psychopaths in corporate world?
Well, I've been researching it since 2005 now at Curtin University in Australia, and then back here in Nottingham Business School in the UK, which I've just left, just because it's too far away from where I live. The key thing about psychopaths is to realise is they've got absolutely no conscience, and therefore there isn't a good side of them to appeal to. There isn't a moral side of them to appeal to. They'll do whatever it takes to get what they want. So totally ruthless, totally without emotion, totally self-centered. And that means they'll commit things like, well, the theory is they'll commit things like fraud and embezzlement whenever they get the chance. There's, again, like the corporate psychopaths theory of the global financial crisis, the link between fraud and psychopaths isn't proven yet. It's just a theory, but it's a very logical.
But there is almost a fearlessness associated, because it's not just they don't care, they're also pretty reckless sometimes.
Yeah, they have a relative lack of, well, because they have a relative lack of emotion, they have therefore a relative lack of fear. And for example, if you caught them lying, they wouldn't be flustered or bothered by it. They'd just carry on with another lie that covers up the first one. Whereas you or I would be embarrassed and stumble over our words and things like that.
Well, Doc, I've got some research just from watching people and studying history. It's not just that, quote, good people are goody two-shoes and have this conscience and feel bad. It's that it's almost, to use a gross analogy, like kids peeing in the public pool. At a certain point, if everybody's peeing in the pool, it makes the pool not a good place to swim anymore. And so it's just a basic human instinct to build up the tribe, build up civilization. It's normal, good, decent people who are honorable that help build civilization. And then it's the parasite psychopaths and their minions, control freaks and others, that always kind of make up their legions, who are the bane of humanity. And I think for human development, the key is to recognize the psychopath and their henchmen, the sociopaths. What's your take on that?
Well, yeah, you've sort of portrayed them as monsters, and in many ways they are. But the key thing about them is when you meet them, they come across as almost better than everybody else. More charming, more sophisticated, more presentable. And so they make you feel as if you've just met your next best friend. And therefore they wheedle their way into your lives. And by the time that you realize who they really are, the destruction has already been done. And you're usually the worse off for it, either financially or emotionally or both.
So there's the silver tongue associated with the psychopath.
With corporate psychopaths, certainly, and to some extent with criminal psychopaths as well, because Robert Hare's work shows they can talk their way out of, when they're talking to parole boards, for example, they can present as if they're a very reformed character. They're born-again Christians, or they're discovered spirituality, or they've turned a new leaf, they've seen the error of their ways, and they'll say whatever they can or whatever they need to get themselves out of the pickle that they're in at that particular time. So they'll tell you what you want to hear.
Well, my concern is the reign of the psychopath, and we've seen it throughout history. Obviously, Hitler and things like that is about to be upon us, because these corporate psychopaths have now gotten their people in almost every global management position. And that's how they can just now basically do anything. And civilization is about to basically, if this whole New World Order, as they call it, is built, and I know you've managed major market research growth companies around the world. You've probably run into quite a few of them. We're about to experience the high-tech world of the psychopath that people don't wake up to this danger. How do people, again, find your book? Give us the title and any other tidbits in closing you'd like to give us.
Yeah, the book is this one. It's called Corporate Psychopaths, Organizational Destroyers. You can find it on most e-commerce sites, I think, or Amazon, for example. It's an academic book, so it's published by Palgrave Macmillan, or you could find it in academic bookshops. It's not written in a popular style, I should hasten to add. It presents the research that's been done about corporate psychopaths and the effect that they have on various influences like corporate social responsibility, bullying, productivity, etc.
Amazing. Well, I notice your book's getting some attention. Your paper's getting a lot of attention. I think that's really great because we need to have a discussion about this. From your research, so it's about 1% of the population's a psychopath?
Yeah, I'm taking Hare's figure. I mean, Robert Hare is the authority on
yeah. What about sociopaths? 1 out of 20?
I don't know enough about that, to be honest, to give a figure.
What about artificial psychopaths and sociopaths? Because this culture run by psychopaths, and let's just admit it pretty much is artificially tortures good, secret arrest, war, blood, death, the simulated murders. I mean, they are artificially, the social engineers, or have you got into that, trying to basically turn us, at least at a certain level, into them?
You mean through things like desensitization?
Well, just, I mean, the Roman gladiatorial events, you might be killed in it the next week, but you'd still cheer as your neighbor was torn in half. I mean, clearly, social engineers for thousands of years have understood that. And I just see the public, a larger percentage, turning into getting large stripes down their backs, not even so much of psychopathic behavior, but more sadistic.
Yes. So was there a question? Sorry.
Well, no, I'm just asking you if you've. I hope you do more research into how psychopaths actually build structures, because you were talking about how they influence. From my research, they actually are experts, the high functioning ones, at putting different types into their organizations. Legions of psychopaths.
Well, I think they surround themselves with yes men, yeah, so Machiavellians maybe, or narcissists, people who have a vested interest in rising alongside the corporate psychopath without directly challenging them. So they'll go along for the ride in order to gain the financial benefits that go with that. So they create a nexus of support within organizations, a little political in-group that they take with them, sometimes wherever they go, but they insist on taking their own team with them, for example. Because they know they can control and manipulate those people and get them to do what they want them to do.
Amazing. All right, Doc, incredible work. Look forward to speaking to you in the future.
Okay, you're welcome.
Wow. Well, that powerful interview, and I'm glad that Rob Dew saw this article in the Star and several others, because we're going to go to break and come back with Gerald Celente and see what the psychopaths have done to him. Just incredible. So we're going to go to break here at InfoWars Nightly News and come right back with Gerald Celente and MF Global, the CME Group, and a lot more. Stay with us. All right, folks, InfoWars Nightly News is over, but there was one question I forgot to ask the good doctor who's written the big peer-reviewed white paper on psychopaths. And, Doc, I wanted to ask you, from your research, what percentage of high-level Fortune 500 leaders are psychopaths if you had to dead reckon?
The nearest estimate for corporate leadership, it seems to be around 3.5%. So if it's 1% of the general population, it seems to go up to about 3%, 3.5%. But the evidence for that is relatively weak so far. People are still working on that around the world.
Interesting. Do you see the worm turning on this? I mean, do you see this as a problem? Is it getting worse? Is it getting better? Their exposure, is that helping?
It doesn't seem to be getting better as far as I can see. I mean, the only way it's getting better is that the public is gradually becoming aware of this as a problem. And sooner or later, there will be a call for screening of these people so that they don't get to the positions where they are now.
Interesting. Dr. Clive Boddy, Professor, thank you so much. Good luck with the book. Well, folks, it's kind of like Ferris Bueller's Day Off. At the end of the credits, there's a little something extra. We do that sometimes. Thanks to Gerald Salente, the crew, the doc for joining us, everybody. We'll see you back tomorrow night, 7 o'clock Central.